Now, common instructions or changes which we need to teach patient or train patient while walking. We have to first know about the phases which you have already learned during your biomechanics classes. First is stance phase, where the patient is bearing weight on his extremities, and swing phase, where the person is not bearing weight on his one of the extremities. So during phase 1 or stance, we need to start training and practicing from just stance position maintenance, which is also known as walk standing position. In walk standing position, we will first teach to move the body weight forward, and the body is supported on vertical alignment of hip over the forward foot. So total weight of body is shifted toward the front foot or forefoot. The toes of rear foot remain on the floor to maintain balance and contact, but the weight is not borne over the rear foot. It is continuously practiced, and uh, alternate weight bearing should be practiced with one foot in front and then with other. Gradually we can teach patient to lift the leg which is kept backward and then moved it forward. This is known as swing and heel strike. So while we are in walk standing and learning weight shifting, the forward leg keeps supporting and rear leg is lifted and flexed. It clears floor by swinging forward, and after that the knee is extended, the foot is dorsiflexed and is allowed to bring heel to the ground. Now during this whole process, when the rear leg is off the ground, full weight is borne through the support limb, and that is why balance of support limb is must. While swinging limb is off the ground and moving ahead, there is activity of muscles which is required in hip flexors, knee extensors, ankle dorsiflexors, and when the person is having issues with the range of motion or strength, the swinging limb may be supported or assisted by the therapist. When there is heel strike, the common mistake done by the patient is he starts with toe first, and instead of heel strike there is toe strike, which is biomechanically incorrect. So we should emphasize and teach the patient to do heel contact first. This will help in initiating rocker movement, where the transfer of weight is done from hind foot to the forefoot. During the phase 3, there is weight transference and new stance phase starts. When there is returns to stance position, it is done by transferring weight from rear leg to the forward leg. Now the heel is used as pivot, and hip extensors of forward leg initiates the forward shift of the pelvis over the weight bearing limb. The lumbar and hip extensor muscles of rear leg are working to assist this movement. So during all these three phases, variety of muscles are working at variety of joints to make it possible. Now, what are the common faulty walking patterns and how we can help to correct them? Before that, we need to discuss that there are factors such as pain or neuromuscular inefficiency or limited joint range of motion, which can lead to development of substitute pattern of walking, which is also called trick movement, and it needs to be corrected or compensated to avoid patient from learning persistent faulty pattern and to identify which of the factor or what combination of all these factors is affecting the patient's walking pattern is a physiotherapist's primary responsibility. Common problems are inefficiency of muscles or lack of range of motion in lumbar spine or pelvis or hip, knees and feet. One of the common walking deficiencies is walking with flexed hips. So in majority times when the person is walking with flexed hips, correction during the stance phase is required. There is lack of normal range of lumbar and hip extension. It may be due to prolonged recumbent position or slump sitting posture. In sitting, we have to provide pressure anterior to hip and thigh or just posterior to head, and along with that we can give verbal commands to straighten the spine and bring the pelvis or hip anterior and upward so that erect posture is achieved. In case when there is lack of dorsiflexion of ankle, knee is hyperextended to compensate for that, and for compensation of knee hyperextension, hip is constantly kept in flex posture. So we need to correct this kind of deformity by stretching or mobilization or footwear modification. Second major issue is lateral shift of the pelvis, which is a common result because of the prolonged non-weight bearing over one extremity. The gait is uneven with increased lateral flexion of trunk towards the affected side of leg. In this kind of cases, there is failure of patient to transfer weight over the affected hip joint. So we need to practice stance position and gradually integrate it with the walking pattern. We can also train the person for sideways walking while the support of handrail in the direction of the affected leg. During this sideways walking towards the affected direction, we can add holding or posing when the weight is over the affected limb to increase weight bearing time duration over the affected side. We can also do stepping activities sideways on the shallow tread. These are the various examples of lateral correction of lateral shift of the pelvis so that we can increase weight bearing over the affected hip. Next is the flat footed shuffle, where the person walks on heel with ankle fixed in dorsiflexion and knees and hips are slightly flexed. This kind of posture is commonly associated with arthritic and painful condition. It reduces shock absorption as it is done in normal person, and it increases the impact force over the joints and may lead to increase in the pain. So we need to mobilize the stiff joints, and we can use foot insole or other device to improve the shock absorption and comfort. Next level, after training the patient in the department, we need to train patient for walking indoor with and without support and walking outdoor with and without support. So to be a functional walker, he or she has to learn to walk and manage both indoor and outdoors. During indoor walking training, there are certain factors which you need to consider. Majority of indoor walking is patients home walking, so we need to consider that the floor surfaces at home may vary. For example, at certain places there are carpets or certain places there are polished floor. We must ask the patient to design the floors so that to avoid tripping and fall. The patient must be trained to adapt to various circumstances within his home. The furniture which is to be used or which is to be avoided, the rooms and door cupboards to be used, toilet and basin facilities which are to be used, stairs, slope or lift which are to be managed has to be trained for the patient. Once the patient is training for outdoor activity, there are pavements and sidewalks and traffic crossings and so many common structures which we need to train the patient for managing. We can also train the patient for use of accessories such as handbags or shopping bags, briefcases or walking aids, and use of these accessories along with the routine walking surfaces. The person has to be trained for use of variety of public transport also. And during indoor and outdoor walking, we need to specifically train person for climbing stairs or ramps which are available in the building. It is an essential activity for patients' independent mobility. So we may try initially with the shallow step or slope, and we have to train for movement both up and down the steps. We also need to train management of crutches and sticks on the stairs and ramps. We should train to use handrails while holding the crutches or stick on the hand which is free. With frequent repetition, we can build endurance, we can increase speed, and we can gain confidence in patient so that patient can manage walking indoors, outdoors, and retain his functional activities.